Hey Robert, Darkos here. So I got your stuff. I saw that you sent it yesterday. So that's fine. But what I have to say after seeing actually your scene is that it might be, in my opinion, a little bit too much. Well, considering that this is CA4, right? Um, I think it's just a little bit too big bite that you might be taking over you. Now, why I'm saying that is, like, first, the scene is quite long and it's very, very complex. Now, I've seen your material, the video that you're going after, a live action, right? And even that one wasn't really that clear what's going on. We just saw that after some mashing up, the both guys fell on the floor, but we didn't really see what happened. Now, in this animation piece, you have to show actually what happened because, um, well, it's a animation showcase, and we have to see clearly what's going on. Otherwise, it's just it's not gonna be effective enough. You have to show that you are in control of animation and that you know how to show certain aspects of action. When something is happening, it has to be done properly. In live action, very often stuff happened and it just happened. We believe it because it's live action. It's something that we see on the street every day, but in animation, we have to do a little bit more to achieve that believability. That's why we have those 12 principles of animation, um, exaggeration, pushing the poses further more than they would be in live action. So this is very complex scene, and I'm 100% sure that in live action, if let's say if this is a movie about two boxers, director would cut this scene in at least three or maybe four different scenes, different camera angles, because it is impossible to show everything from this stationary camera. Um, that's why I have, I have two proposals. One would be that you cut your scene, maybe even like a halfway, and then focus on doing that first half really good. Or if you want to have it all together as you have it right now, then I would change the camera angles, right? So I would have a up to a certain point camera here, and then I would move camera somewhere else to show the best you can the action that is happening. Now I can see that you're very ambitious. That's good, but at the same time, there is a saying: "Do not bite more than you can chew." And I'm kind of afraid that this might be the case here, because let's see. Like first, even before we go any further, look how much empty space we have here. There is no purpose to have it. And then we have two small guys very far from the camera, and once when the fight starts, we don't really see what really is going on. So why not to have a camera like that? As long as when this guy right jumps up or flips, makes a flip. As long as he is in, then that's all fine because there is really no need for all that empty space around them while they are still. There you go. So here is the highest point. So you definitely can go up to here. That would be completely fine. All right. Now let's talk about actual, you know, well, before I go to talk about actual animation, I can still, I can, I can pull Maya and tell you what I've been thinking about when I was talking about camera cuts. As you start your animation, um, you can start the first part just as you have it. And as you can see, I did pull in. It's better than this, right? There is no reason why not to have them closer. So, they can be here for this. But then when this guy starts to, when big guy starts to move for this action and a small guy jumps up, the camera should be somewhere here. You have to move camera a little bit away. But I think at this point, the camera could be here. Oh, my Maya is chugging. What else is going on? So what I was trying to say, okay, let's go back to animation, is that while he's jumping, I think that the different angle would be better for that. And then for very last thing, when he grabs him for a foot, I think I don't know what's going on with my mind. Sorry, it's can do nothing. So for very end, um, when he is grabbing him for a foot, maybe camera could be something like that, where we would see what is going on. Okay, maybe that's a little bit too high. So maybe something like that for the third camera or something. If you would go with the camera cuts. Um, I really have a problem with mine. I don't know why. I'm sorry for that. Let's go back to the your Scene Sketch Play Blast. Alright, so let's take a look what we have now. Well, even that is chugging. So once again, I don't think that this is good angle, but then for this where he is jumping towards the camera is definitely not, and the flip is also in wrong camera. So yes, you can also stop somewhere here. That's what I thought that as a first solution. Maybe after these guys getting together and bam, 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 bam. Now they go away from each other, and that can be shot just, I mean, the scene just for itself. Or maybe you can replace all this animation with just them falling on the floor after this duel. Bam, bam, bam. Maybe now they're falling down, and that would be it. So you would be done by probably 150 instead of going to 300. So it's a double work. Now that's completely up to you which one you're gonna go for. Let's talk about animation. So let's talk about the small guy first. As he is walking forward, I would say it looks pretty good. The only thing that kind of bothers me is his back foot, where it looks like he's been injured and he's kind of pulling that leg after him. You see that? Nobody walks like that, especially if you are in a fight, because mostly in a fight the legs are kind of, you're down on the legs, and there is a certain bend almost all the time. And in this particular pose, you were actually pulling this character for the hips higher than you were supposed to, because you were stretching leg beyond what is meant to. Because as I can see that by pulling the leg, stretching the leg, you are lifting also the whole foot off the ground. So that's not okay. Another thing that seems to me that you don't understand is how the steps are being made. The person, when he is stepping forward, and that's pretty much part of the just a regular walk, is that, like in this case, right? We hit the ground with a heel, so it should be not just those toes turned upward, but also just the heel should contact, and the foot should be upward, the whole foot, right? It would be like that. At the contact pose, and also the leg would be a little bit more stretched. This leg might be a little bit more bended with the knee going down. And then after the contact, just in next 2 frames, the foot is flat. So there might be one in between, one frame between the foot being up and foot being flat on the ground. Not more, because it becomes mushy. That's one of the problems of your shot, is that it's a timing, right? Because if timing doesn't work, if it's too slow, then it looks more kind of like a floaty, where the timing feels even, and everything looks kind of like a whole scene is being done under the water, where the vegetation underwater floats very evenly and, as we call it, mushy in animation, floaty or mushy. Um, so in this case, definitely when the character is going forward from contact to down pose, it it has to happen faster. It can happen with only one in between, or maybe even none in this situation of the fights or that kind of stuff. So this pooling shouldn't happen. It should, probably at this point the foot should be maybe like that. Also here would help when he starts going, he goes right away up. Maybe before he goes up, maybe he should go first down for down pose. The fighters, they go a lot up and down, up and down. So you see, in this case, you put the foot down flat, and it should hit first with a heel and then go down flat. Again here, flat. That is a problem of yours here through the whole scene that I noticed that there is it's the problem is one problem is with the timing. The other one actually is a weight shift. What is actually weight shift? Weight shift is it's a process of moving, like in this case humans, right? Moving from one place to another. How we do, let's say I have a guy here, right, who is standing and he is in complete control. He is in a very balanced pose. You see, that's a balanced pose where he can actually keep being in that pose for a longer time. Now, if he has to move this way, right? Let's say he has to shift, he wants to move here. What he has to do? First, he has to move his the hips on the opposite side. So that's going to be used as anticipation for moving to the right, but also he has to release the weight from this leg. Because right now, when he's in balance pose, the weight of this body, upper body, is equally distributed on one leg and the other one. In that case, there is no way that you can lift one leg. So in order to lift one leg, in this case this one, he has to shift his weight on the left side so that he can lift this leg, because now there is no weight over that. So he can lift it up, move it to another place, somewhere here, right? Now I'm gonna draw that with a different color. So now he's going for this further over here, right? So he starts moving hips. He puts the leg down for the new contact where he wants to go. And now, because he has a contact here, now he gets to that new position where this foot now goes flat down. and now he's basically almost on with the 2 feet, both legs down. This one can go on the toes now as he's lifting it, pulling by his hips, moving towards this way. In order to completely lift it, he has to move his hips a little bit beyond here. So that's that additional weight shift over this supporting leg, while this leg goes up, traveling this way, and finally he goes a little bit back, settling in as this leg comes down for new contact. And then let's use this one. And then finally that foot goes flat too as he moves a little bit more back. So as you can see, it's a process of moving shifting the weight first on one side to release the weight from the leg, and then moving back for the new position. That is missing throughout the most of your stuff. So there been, you know, I saw when I was in Maya cases where, let's say, this is a guy and this is looking from back, right? So this is one leg, this is the other, and they're having. And then what you do is you lift this leg and then you move to a new position. But like I said, it's impossible to lift this leg if you don't move these hips a bit on the other side. All right, so the weight shift is incredibly important, and if you don't understand or if you don't do it properly, the whole animation falls in flat in the water, because believability of it is not there. Why? Because we are watching people walking and moving in front of us every day, all day long, and there is a certain ways how they do it. And then when we are recreating that kind of stuff, that kind of movement, and if we don't do it properly, if we just cut the corners, that reality of the movement is gone, and it doesn't look right. He shouldn't be just pulling his leg, because it looks like he's being on ice, so his leg is sliding. There will be lots of sliding here, what makes characters not being stable on the floor. This movement seems to be like too early, because he wouldn't go with the body forward when the leg is up. He would have to somehow put his foot down sooner and then continue with the body. Again, when the foot is coming down, the contact first is with the heel. So this would probably look better like this. And then from here, he would go down flat. this leg looks strangely straight. It should be something like that. Just the act of taking a anticipation for a hit, I think he should be, rotating the whole body, and maybe even a little bit back, and rotating this way his torso while he's going for that anticipation back. And then when this kick happens in his head, it doesn't look like he really hits him. This is not clear. It almost looks like this big guy's head comes forward and knocks himself. I don't know if you want to do that or not, because of the speed, it really, it's not clear what's going on. So maybe his arm, after hitting him here, he should continue with rotation of his torso, so that on this one, this arm would, the shoulder, right, would be here, frontal, as he rotated his torso this way, and then arm could go like that, and we would see a reaction of this kick, because the big guy's head would go back. So once again, the shoulder would be forward, and the kick would be like that, head would go back, and there would be also some reaction on the lower body. You see that? So from here to there, and then back. So that would be more clear what is going on here. Now, when he gets hit, boom, right? Look how his hips are not moving anywhere. They just got stuck at the same place in the air. Look, it looks to me that this is very unstable pose, where there is no way he would recover from this. But he just got there stuck for a while. How is possible that he moves in these ways where his hip is still being on the same place? And upper body moves so much, but his hips are in the same way. This whole movement has nothing to do with reality. So this, has to be fixed somehow. And then again, shifting the weight. If right now his weight is distributed on these both legs, in order for him to lift this leg, he has to not just move his upper body, but hips have to move this way to lift this leg. And then again, in order to lift this leg, well, he is actually shifting hips this way, but the movement of the foot is kind of strange, because when we are, let's say this is a character, that's important, I have to stress this. So if we have a guy here who is in contact is one of the poses of the walk, right? So contact, the front foot hits with the heel, the toes are up. On the back foot, the foot actually is on the toes and the heel is up, right? So on the front one, the toes are up, on the back one, the heel is up. Then comes down pose. In down pose, the front foot just go down flat, right? And these hips are going down. So the hips will drop and the back foot would be or still there, or it could be a little getting off with the toes already a little bit off the ground. Either way works, but down pose usually is with some bend in the back, and it's kind of perfect for this case of two boxers fighting. After that comes passing one, where this leg that is flat remains flat and becomes supporting leg for the body, that now body goes up, and this leg now will start moving forward, and it will get in this kind of pose that we call passing pose, and that's where the name comes for the whole pose. And only in this pose the character is in real height. Let's say the character is 5 feet tall, and it's only here that he's 5 feet away from the ground. Here he's lower because he goes down with the hips, and here he is lower because his legs are spread. Now here, the only place where actually his leg is supporting leg is straight and the foot is flat. After this one, he goes in up pose, where he goes a bit on the toes, not as much as on the contact pose, less, but the foot, the leg is straight, and that is actually pushing the character to be in the highest place. So that's why it's called up. And this passing foot is now somewhere here, and after this it comes to new contact, right? The new contact would come here, where it looks the same as this one, just with the opposite legs, right? So whatever was left leg now becomes right here. So now the hips will go down again a bit. This passing leg hits the ground with a heel, and this back one stays back, it's just that heel goes higher. So these are just basic principles of walk, and we have to implicate these on these tiny steps. I understand these are tiny, but it has to happen, otherwise it doesn't work properly. So when we have a character, moving around here, like here, he puts his leg on the new position here. Now the weight is spread evenly. There is no way for him to lift this right leg, and he does it. So it's there is no reality into it. Let's take a look at this guy. When he lifts his foot, he shouldn't be lifting that foot just flat up. There should be peeling off where the front part stays down and the heel first goes up. And then here in the passing pose, the whole foot should be kind of facing a little bit more down, not just toes. And then when he's putting foot down, again, it should be on the heel. And then after that, foot goes flat. The same goes for the other foot. You just don't lift it like that. It has to be peeling off, where the front part, the ball of the foot is still down and the heel goes up. And then in passing one, his foot should be faced down, and then when he puts the foot down, it should be first contact with the heel contacting the ground, and then he goes flat. So these are like a basic of the basic things to make the movement believable. Now hold this turn is also very weakly done, because like first we would not rotate on the heel but on the ball of the foot, on the front part. And the way how he turns is very robotic and very stiff, because when we turn, let's say there is a guy here with his torso made out of 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces with the spine going there, and now we have hips and the legs. If he has to turn this way, what turns first is a head. So the head would move first, then upper chest second, and then these things would go boom 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 as a 3, and finally hips here as a 4. So let's say these hips moved here now, right? And this one are, so if here he moves so he wants to hit somebody, right? You see, first goes upper part and then like a chain reaction. Nothing moves as the same at the same time with the same intensity, because then you have that robotic feel where it just turns like around this axle, right? And it just turns from the root at the same speed, and so that is completely wrong. And that's how he does turn here. You see that? It really feels like you just grab him for his hips and just spin around. Another thing, when we are putting our foot back behind, that's another process. if you have a guy here who is standing, let's say like this, and that this leg is here, if he wants to put this leg back here, he has to go first in the, of course, passing one, while this one is still being down for support. So this one goes up, this one, and then that leg continues back, but it lands down on the toes. So once when you have a contact with the toes and heel up, now finally we can put this body that so far has been on the supporting leg. Now the body can go back, and this foot now goes flat, and this body moves back, because now this leg becomes supporting leg. You see that? So shift weighting, the movement of the shift, movement of the hips, weight shifting is incredibly important. And to get this animation correct, it has to be done correctly. Otherwise, it's not gonna look properly. Now, from this camera angle, this is, really bad. We see nothing how this all happened. So I would not keep this at all at this camera angle. As he hits him, just from the animation point, he should be reacting with the head going back, and reaction should be a little bit stronger at this point, I think. So this kind of comes too late, but also look, his hips did not move at all. Only upper part and the leg. The hips are in the same place. And then what I said about going back. First he has to make contact with the toes in order for him to go back after that flat, to try to keep the balance, not to fall down. Then what is going on here now with the legs? So when the character is falling, like you're trying to do here, on the way of body going down, his legs should go up. As he hits the ground, the legs are probably still somewhere like this. And then legs should come down, but not at the same time. So one leg is coming down, the other one is maybe already on the way down. And they shouldn't hit the ground at the same time. One hits the ground, the other one is still up there, or something like this, because in animation nothing really stops or starts at the same time. So if you have arms and legs like we humans do, we try to stop them at different points of time, So to cut it down, because I'm already 40 minutes in, the weight shifts should be done better, properly, and the feet shouldn't slide. they have to move properly from one position. If that's a foot and you want to lift it, right? At first the heel goes up, then it goes to that passing pose, and now goes to the, it can go to up pose, but maybe in these cases of the fighting, it doesn't maybe even need that, but what does need is the contact. So you can kind of skip up pose, you can go to contact, and then after contact, the foot, this one gets flat down, and probably hips go down because that's a down pose where the other leg is back, right? So there is a process of going forward and backward with a foot, making steps. So once again, as I was saying, you know, properly moving my Maya is not responding. I'm really sorry for that. I have to restart, and I cannot restart now while I'm recording. So weight shifting, like it's right. So okay, just try to implement these notes that I gave you as much as you can, and also decide if you're gonna go with the whole thing or you're gonna cut it sooner. Because if you go with the whole thing, I definitely think you are supposed to have a few different camera angles. And even if you go with the only first part, try to zoom in with the camera because it should be closer, something like this, not far away. We don't need all that empty space around them. We need actually to see what's going on. Okay, so I'm gonna stop now, and I'm looking forward to see your new post. All right? Okie dokie. Thank you very much, Robert. Bye-bye.